So into the charts we go. Bitcoin continuing to get a very small bounce for the second day in a row, coming off a classic little double bottom here. And again, this is what we would refer to as a minor double bottom. Now you might say, well, what's the difference between a minor or a major double bottom? The answer is pretty simple. Major double bottoms are pivot lows where price goes away from it for a significant amount of time and then revisits. In this case, you hit a low here, and it only took about 2 weeks for us to retest that low. So again, if we were to go back to other levels, like for instance, if we were to go back to the 2019 lows, right? And, needless to say, we've been away from that for a long, long time. That would be considered a double bottom, but that would be a major double bottom. So a little tidbit of information right there, a little gem. So the bottom line is we are getting a bounce, but I want to show you this, guys, because again, this is just more technical stuff. Take a trend line, drop it down to this pivot high, and look at that. From here to here, and look at where Bitcoin stalled out. So Bitcoin obviously is kind of in this new little mini wedge pattern, and you guys can see it forming as I put that in. Here's your wedge pattern, your double bottom, your down sloping trend line right there. Now the question is, which way does price break? Can price break to the upside, in which case we head up to this resistance? Now again, what would this level be considered? This would be a return to the scene of the crime. The pivot low from June, we went away from it for a long period of time. We finally came down, we broke through it. If we broke here and went back to it, that would be a retrace again to the scene of the crime, the scene of the breakdown, essentially. All right, so that would be resistance on the upside. So short term, you're hitting resistance here. There's your secondary resistance point. Now, if it got through there, well, unfortunately, you have all these levels here, there. And again, this is one of the tricky things when you go sideways in a chart and you kind of consolidate for a long period of time. This is what you end up getting, is that you get a lot of these kind of big levels when price has to fight back up. And it makes it tricky. I mean, let's be fair. It makes it very, very tricky for price to really get in a new bull market when you have to get through so many of these levels. And it's just one more thing, or one more reason why it's going to be very tough for Bitcoin to go up in the near term before it goes lower. There's a lot more resistance levels to the upside right now than there are supports to the downside. Okay, so that's where we stand at this point in terms of the lows. If we break through this 15,600 level right here, then you start your trek down to the levels we've talked about before. We have a couple levels here, and again, this is a different level, but basically you have this area right here, which is around that 13,000 level, and right here, which is around 12,000. That would be your next big support line, followed by this area down here. And again, this is my ultimate target is around that 9,000 area. Upsloping trend line, downsloping, they're kind of meeting right here in the 8,000 range. But the upsloping will creep up a little bit over time. If I'm right that Bitcoin has about 5 to 6 months before it bottoms, then that makes a lot of sense how it would kind of get down to that level. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Ethereum and see what's going on Ethereum. Now, just in the basics of it, Ethereum is actually showing a little bit of relative strength compared to Bitcoin. Now, you might say, well, how come, right? Well, the basics of it is you have this June low, and price has never taken that out, right? I mean, you've never taken out this 885 level. Now, if you look at the June low from Bitcoin, Bitcoin's June low was here at 17,700, 600. We obviously are trading below that. So just in a near-term relative strength or weakness scenario, there's no doubt that we do see some relative weakness in Bitcoin or relative strength in Ethereum. Now, over the longer term, if Bitcoin is going to go down to, let's say, 12,000 or 9,000, Ethereum is going to fall as well. There's no doubt about it, and I think eventually it plays catch-up. But I think, again, it's one of those scenarios where, at least in the near term, it is showing us a little minor bit or a glimpse of positivity there compared to some of the other cryptos. Cardano is one that continues to get a small bounce here. Nice little bounce back to closing in on 32 cents. This is all very minimal at this point, though. There's nothing really to write home about aside from it holding this down-sloping trend line. I'd like to see a big bull run in the very near term back to this trend line here, which would then put us in the money on that trade. But we'll have to watch and see again if it's able to get to that point. Okay, looking at Polkadot, let's see what's going on with Polkadot here. Polkadot, same thing. Briefly pierced this lower trend line, recaptured very, very quickly with a bottoming tail there. But again, the question is, can it get more upside before that further downside comes in? that's something that, again, I will be monitoring as well. Short-term resistance on Polkadot around $6 here, and then if it gets through this, the down-sloping trend line would be a major, major level. Let's look at NEAR, which we picked up just a couple days ago. This continues to bounce. We are in the money, not too far away from 20 cents on a $1.45 entry, so that's pretty awesome right there, right around that $1.45-ish or so. But the bottom line is, again, you have a $1.62 and change price right now. I still think there's more upside, so obviously I'm still holding. And again, I will continue to kind of keep an eye on this as it trades to see if we can get that extra bang for our buck. Not 100% sure where I'll take some profits if it continues up, but I certainly will, will continue to keep an eye on it. And I won't be shy about taking profits either, folks. I mean, just to be clear, we are still in a bear market. We still have to be careful of this market. The market I still expect to go lower. It keeps going lower. I've been proven right over and over again that it would go lower. And so I don't want to get too greedy. So yes, I think we get a little bit more out of it, but am I going to wait for $2 before I take profits, which would be a big resistance? Honestly, probably not. I probably will take profits a little bit prior to that level. Looking at Solana real quick, see what we got on Solana. Look at that beautiful bounce on Solana. How about that? So Solana actually catching a beautiful bid, trading near $14. The beautiful thing, and I talked about this in the previous videos on that I've done, is that Solana is so beaten up because of forced selling by FTX and from some other factors, people worrying about whether it was going to go to zero, all these things. If those fears can be put to rest, Solana has major upside. And I'm talking about, a bounce back to $28 potentially. That would be amazing in terms of a bounce. It is doable, maybe a little far-fetched at this point, but I still think a bounce back to these highs right here, around 18 and a half, very, very likely, assuming the panic and the fear and the negatives start to fade just a little bit. By the way, I continue to hear more and more rumblings about regulation, and again, regulation is kind of the scary word, right, in the crypto markets, but like I've said to you guys, if you're like me and you're an investor and you want to make money, then you have to welcome regulation, which should create amazing amounts of transparency, which will then draw big money into crypto, which will then send these things to new all-time highs. And by the way, a lot of coins won't, but generally the ones I've been investing in, I tend to choose my coins, and I've said this from the very start of this service, that I really only invest in the top 20. It probably turns out to be about the top 25. You take out the stable coins and stuff like that. But the bottom line is that these coins at least have the best chance of surviving. I think in terms of hodling, Bitcoin and Ethereum are the only ones I feel good about that. In terms of swing trading, the bigger ones, I think top 25 is fine. Okay, Avalanche, great bounce as well, not too far away from 13, but again, please note it is into resistance. Look at this, guys. See the low end of the body here and how that cuts right through these lows? Let's put a trend line right there, and then look at where today's high is on Avalanche, right there. So again, that's just, this is the beauty of charts. The charts, there's a reason why charts work. Charts follow the levels generally, and again, that's the beauty of it. Now, if we can get through this level, where does this trade? Probably trades. I could see it maybe trading up to here, which would be around 14 and change as next resistance. Gets through there. Probably have a little bit of resistance right here around 1540, and then this level right here around $16 and so forth. So again, is that a little optimistic to think it's going to get back to 16 in the near term? Maybe it is. But in the very least, I think, again, maybe we have a short-term bottom. Maybe fear subsides. I think as long as the stock market keeps rallying, and the stock market certainly keeps rallying for sure. Let me bring up the S&P 500. I mean, look at this is the S&P 500 chart. So look at this move up here on the S&P. In fact, you could put a beautiful trend line there. And really, honestly, look at this. I mean, basically a parallel line right there as well. So it's like a parallel channel to the upside. But again, notice the rally here. And then usually what we've been seeing is crypto following the stock market. Well, that's obviously had a divergence since we saw FTX and what happened there. But if crypto can start playing catch up, if that FTX stuff fades, maybe we do have a near-term bounce in crypto to follow the stock market. I do think, again, though, once the stock market starts to fall again, and it will, mark my words, it will, then crypto does see that move down to probably, again, 12,013 on Bitcoin, maybe 9,000 or so. So just be aware of that. Again, I don't think there's much else to talk about here. Quant inching up a little bit. Matic, let's take a look at Matic here. Matic basically pausing today, still nothing on that chart. BNB, we could take a look with. Yeah, nice little pop on BNB today. That's a good move there. Nothing to do with it, of course. You're not going to chase and buy up here. It's actually coming into resistance right around 303, 305. But nonetheless, that is actually a really nice move on BNB today, recapturing a little bit of a resistance line there, which is now support. Aside from that, again, XRP, I know a lot of you guys love your XRP out there. XRP just kind of chopping around. You could almost make a case XRP is starting to form this new wedge pattern here. It's just wedge pattern after wedge pattern, but right now you have this one. If this breaks, goes here. If it breaks to the upside, it can go retest this level here, which would then be resistance. But yeah, again, I don't really see a whole lot on this chart overall as it continues to trade into this really late November period. Stock market is closed tomorrow, so just be aware of that here in the U.S. I know I have a lot of members that are from all over the world. So again, stock market will be closed. Crypto obviously trades 24/7, but you may get a little bit of a quieter crypto price action on a day when you have the stock market closed. And then Friday we have a half day in the stock market because of the Thanksgiving holiday as well, and then resumption of normal stuff going into next week. All right. On that note, I'm going to bid you farewell. As always, a pleasure to keep you guys in the loop on all things crypto technical-wise and macro-wise of the economy. You guys have a great one as always. Take care.